This is CBC Vancouver News.
She's alive.
What did she say?
Alive. That's it. I'm more than happy. It's been 16 hours.
Agonizing waits for Palestinian Canadians fearing for their loved ones in Gaza, even as hostages and detainees are freed. Plus,
still one too many, but it's a sign that we're moving in the right direction.
after a disturbing rise in random stranger attacks in Vancouver, police say they've dropped. Why? And
It's an espresso machine.
I mean, it's fine, so it's okay.
did you find a Black Friday deal? What local shoppers are doing amid the push to buy and the inflation they feel. Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. This marks day one of a four-day truce between Hamas and Israel, allowing for the first group of hostages to be freed from Gaza in exchange for Palestinians released from Israeli jail. But Palestinian Canadians here worry the pause in the fighting will do little for their loved ones still facing a dire humanitarian crisis. Our Michelle Gassoub reports on their fears and pleas.
Hi, Sheen.
Nasser Najjar's thoughts couldn't be further from his Vancouver apartment. His family is in the Gaza Strip. More than a month ago, they fled south.
God knows if she's alive or not now.
But the United Nations says nowhere in Gaza is safe.
The last I heard from my sister that where she is staying, the place where they are have been bombarded, and she was running. That I heard from her around 2 a.m. in the morning, and since then I have no clue.
It's been 16 hours since he's heard from them. It's been too long, and he's worried, until a message lights up his screen.
She's alive.
What did she say?
Alive. That's it. I'm more than happy. It's been 16 hours. I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy.
Since the start of the war, every day has been like this one, desperately waiting for news, fearing the worst. Does that make it any easier?
For an hour or so.
Today marked day one of a four-day truce between Hamas and Israel. Some Israeli hostages freed by Hamas returning home, and Israel, in return, releasing Palestinians held in prison. But Najjar says the relief of the temporary ceasefire is fleeting.
Every hostage, whether it's from the Israeli side or a Palestinian side, especially if they're children and women, they have the right to be with their families. They have the right to be safe. But then again, once the hostages are out, God knows what wrath Israel is going to bring to the Palestinians.
Israel says it's targeting Hamas militants in Gaza. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, at least 14,000 people in the Strip have died since the war began. The cramped territory destroyed beyond recognition. Najjar's sister, a doctor, can no longer treat her patients.
Oh, that's my last night. It's like my last night in Gaza. We just pulled whatever blankets and we didn't sleep. We just kept on talking and making jokes. I was sleepy on the way to the border. This was our house before, of course, it was demolished.
Destroyed.
Destroyed, totally destroyed.
Najjar has also lost friends, and just yesterday, a former colleague from the Red Cross. Do you have hope that your family will meet your son?
I don't know. I'll let it to faith. I'll let it to the universe to decide at this point. But knowing what I'm seeing, I lost hope in humanity. I lost hope in humankind.
That's not an easy thing to sit with.
No. And I believed in peace for a long time. And I was debating for it. I used to believe it's something that Palestinians someday will live, and we'll see. But I guess peace can't come without freedom.
With the truce holding, Najjar hopes his family can take a breath. All the while, his phone will be near, and he'll wait to hear one word, Aishin, alive. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
In the midst of those tensions in the Middle East, the owners of a popular Israeli-Palestinian restaurant in Toronto are opening up a second franchise here in downtown Vancouver. The owners of Bar Haifa are on a mission to promote peace by connecting people through Middle Eastern cuisine. Haifa takes its name from the seaport city in Israel, where Arabs and Jews were historically known to live and work peacefully side by side. But the October 7th violence broke out as the Friends were preparing the restaurant for its grand opening, leaving them to wonder if they should do it at all.
But then when we thought about it, we were like, no, it actually is. It's actually more important than ever because it's getting so polarized. If you're in social media, it's these echo chambers of sides and positions and dehumanization, essentially. The idea is just coming together with shared humanity over food. And I think that is just like, it's a simple but really, really poignant thing.
The project is the baby of 5 friends who are co-owners, Palestinians and Israelis rooted in the culinary cultures of their families, drawing on memories of meals shared in both communities. Bar Haifa is set to open next week. After a disturbing rise in random stranger attacks since the height of the pandemic in 2021, Vancouver police say such violence is now dropping from around 4 attacks a day to 1. But as the CBC's Zara Premji shows us, some Vancouverites say there is still a lot of work to be done.
We thought this is too good to be true.
A necessary drop in daily random attacks, dipping from 4 or 5 a day to 1 on average.
Still one too many, but it's a sign that we're moving in the right direction.
But over the course of the pandemic, troubling random attacks in Vancouver did flood headlines.
So we're not talking about bar fights. We're not talking about 2 people in a road rage incident. We're talking about a true stranger attack. 2 people, victim, suspect, who don't know each other, and for no explainable reason, the victim is being attacked.
Scenes like this and this, just some of the daily random attacks that unfolded on the streets of Vancouver, oftentimes in broad daylight. And while the unprovoked attacks aren't over, the frequency, police are thankful to say, has dropped for several reasons.
That bystander effect is also a big thing. As we've come out of the pandemic, returned to a more normal way of life, we've seen more people on the streets. We know that busy streets, full communities are healthy communities.
Now, while those busy communities are being credited for part of that dip in random attacks, businesses in the downtown core say this is positive. It's just not problem solved.
The reality for our members, though, is that they continue to face daily concerns and daily issues around safety.
Talbot's organization represents around 8,000 businesses and property owners in the 90-block area of Vancouver's downtown core.
Shoplifting remains a significant concern. Property crime remains a significant concern, as does trespassing.
While the numbers have gone down for the crimes that are happening randomly on the streets of Vancouver, the Business Improvement Association as well as police say the numbers are not gone entirely and the work will continue. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vancouver police, meanwhile, have arrested a man in New Brunswick already convicted of abusing boys at an orphanage. A warning for you, this story does deal with allegations of sexual abuse. In 1991, Edward English was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being convicted of abusing boys at the notorious Mount Cashel Orphanage in St. John's, Newfoundland in 1975. Before his crimes ever came to public attention, he was reassigned to Vancouver. CBC News has learned Vancouver police officers arrested English at his Moncton area home on Wednesday in connection with allegations of sexual abuse involving 2 students at Vancouver College in the 1980s. No charges have been laid at the provincial courthouse in Vancouver. English declined to comment when reached by CBC News. Vancouver College is also facing a class action lawsuit regarding allegations of abuse at the school. High-risk sex offender Randall Hopley remains in jail after his court appearance was rescheduled on Friday. Hopley took off from his halfway house in Vancouver earlier this month, prompting a 10-day countrywide search. He later turned himself in to police. He's facing charges for breaching his bail conditions and charges linked to his disappearance. He's set to be in court again December 8th. It was Black Friday today, a day infamous for the shopping frenzy it can bring. But as Saurabh Sandhu reports, analysts say shoppers are more cost-conscious than ever.
It's an espresso machine. I bought it for $330, I guess. The original price was over $450. That was a really good deal.
Some of them get like 30-40% off, and some of them get buy three, get three for free.
Unappealing deals.
I mean, it's fine, you know, so it's okay.
Black Friday is here, but there are no lineups and no race to grab the price deal.
Over the years, we've turned Black Friday into Black Friday month, and so there's sales all the way through. And we know there'll be sales after this and Cyber Monday and so on.
The strategy over the last, 3-4 years at Best Buy has been to launch our Black Friday deals a lot earlier than just on Black Friday. So last Friday, the 17th, we actually launched all of our Black Friday items.
Experts say this shift in strategy is happening at stores across Canada, and that retailers are moving away from big discounts on a few items to smaller discounts on more items.
Retail is trying to dampen that enthusiasm just a little bit because of the strain it puts on staff in a hard-to-staff environment.
But retailers are also keeping an eye on another problem: Canadian consumers struggling with rising inflation.
It's the discretionary impulsive buys are really going to be pulled back, and then shoppers are going to be strategic.
Data from Statistics Canada shows a clear trend that consumer spending has slowed in recent months, with sales volumes dropping every month since June.
How many bags do you see coming out of the malls and the stores is really going to be the question.
However, Ian Gray says how well the Canadian retailers do this Black Friday will not be known until January, when the 30-day return period is over. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Burnaby.
Rogers Sugar has now asked for mediation to help bring an end to a 2-month-long strike at its Vancouver refinery. Nearly 140 workers have been off the job since late September. Rogers is one of only 3 large refineries in the entire country. The strike has led to supply problems, notably for bakers ahead of the holiday season. The company says the union has accepted mediation. And Punjabi superstar Diljit Doan is returning to Vancouver next April 27th for a show many fans are expecting to be the largest Punjabi concert outside of India. Last time the singer visited Vancouver, he became the first Indian artist to perform at Rogers Arena and sell it out. This time, he's bringing his Dilluminati tour to BC Place. Tickets go on sale December 1st.
It's always been a struggle, because everybody likes to live here.
Ski first, but sleep where? Ongoing housing problems in Whistler. Up next. Hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. A documentary about a much-loved Canadian music channel will be playing at the Vancouver Playhouse tonight. A former Much Music VJ joined our Stephen Quinn on the early edition this morning to talk about 299 Queen Street West.
I'll never break your heart.
Well, it was always more than the Canadian version of MTV. Much Music broke the mold of TV music presenting with its freewheeling camera work, and it launched the careers of all kinds of bands and VJs. It also brought Canada together from a central location that shares its name with a new documentary. 299 Queen Street West is the name of the film. The documentary and several of its DJs are on a cross-Canada tour that screens at the Vancouver Playhouse tonight. Here to tell us more is VJ Rick Campanelli, or you may remember him as Rick the Temp, who began his career at Much Music. I am just so fascinated by the number of people who launched their careers there.
It's all because winning a contest at Much Music back in the summer of 1994. It was called the Temp Contest, and I didn't really want to leave because I watched Much religiously, like many young Canadians back in the 80s and 90s, and I loved music. I lived music, and since I got my foot in the door at this magical place, I just thought I'd run with it, see how far I can go with it. I never expected to be on air as a VJ. I loved what the VJs were doing at the time, like Michael Williams, and Steve Anthony, and Erica M, and Master T. Bill, the list goes on and on. I know. But to ever dream of being a VJ, no, I never thought about it in my wildest dreams.
How long were you there then?
I was there from 1994 to 2005.
Okay.
And then when I saw things changing and it wasn't all about the music anymore, I thought, you know what, it's a good time to leave.
We've got a clip from the documentary, and this is a little bit about your own journey to becoming a VJ. Listen here.
Let's talk about other favorite things. Okay. For example, a favorite line from a song, like just a line, not necessarily your song, but any song. Has a line touched you? Has a line stayed with you?
Wow, that's a tough question.
It's a tough question. Does that help
Let's
you?
move on.
I was terrible. I was so uncomfortable. I was lacking confidence. I was the one to be put in front of a camera, in front of the nation. That's a different level.
That was you interviewing Corey Hart. How'd that go?
Corey Hart. You know what? It wasn't a difficult question. It was one of those questions where you really have to think about the answer, because we all have favorite songs. We all have favorite lines from songs. And it's like asking, well, who's your favorite child? There is no favorite child. There's so many amazing children.
So, I mean, I could have answered that question. So if you're lost and on your own, never surrender.
There you go.
See?
Corey Hart, Never Surrender. I wasn't specifically asking for one of his favorite lyrics from his songs, because he was inspired by music. He was inspired by artists growing up as a young Canadian. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I was always fascinated. I like dissecting things.
Yep.
Maybe I went a little too far with Corey. He wasn't ready.
As we told you last night, Whistler Blackcomb is now open for the 2023 ski and snowboard season. Plenty of excitement for the prospect of good snow, but many residents and visitors are concerned about a housing shortage and rising prices in the village. Arlene Young has more on their concerns.
Housing is a major dilemma here in Whistler, and longtime locals say their housing crisis has been going on for decades, and it's really key to many people's day-to-day struggle here. How long has this been here for?
Probably about 10 years, yeah. When they updated the new gondola, this is a Whistler Village gondola. No, we got it for $400 back.
$400? What a steal!
Yeah.
Someone can make this their home.
Yeah, I know. That could be somebody's home, yeah.
Right? And how long have you been a Whistler resident?
Since '94, almost 30 years, yeah.
Almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I hear that when you first got here, housing was already a bit of a challenge then, hey?
I used to live in a van for the first summer.
Oh, wow.
And then got lucky and moved into a house with a bunch of people.
How have things changed? Like, where are we at now? What do you see?
There's definitely more housing than it used to be, but it's always been a struggle because everybody likes to live here.
Right.
Yeah.
So you feel like things have improved?
There is definitely a will to improve, but we're still lagging behind for more housing.
And what are some of the examples that you're seeing? Like, how's it for your staff? Because you've got housing now, right?
We have a couple, they live in a van, in a camper van for the winter. And we got luckily some housing upstairs where we can house like 4 of our own staff. It's really expensive. I think a shared bedroom goes $1,000 a bed. Just not enough rooms, and all those new big houses don't come with little en-suites now like they used to have. Sometimes we have to go short-staffed because we just don't have enough.
That type of concern is something we've heard from many of the other people we've talked to here, and they're not sure who to blame, but what they do know is that something more needs to be done. Tell me about your membership here in Whistler.
Yeah, so we represent 7 hotels up here in Whistler, mostly housekeeping, but a lot of people are front desk and valet, laundry and such.
I know you guys are holding a session about housing and affordability. What are you hearing from your members about that?
Well, members come here, they want to enjoy a beautiful Whistler, but they just can't find a place. And so some of them end up living in tents, living in their vehicles. And then for those that are fortunate enough to find a place, they'll generally have to share it with 4 or 5 other people. And it's hard for the employers too, and so what they end up doing is they'll rent entire houses and then house their incoming staff in there. So that's like kind of a step back, really, if you think about it. Your boss is your landlord. It's going backwards in time, and it's a strange situation that can put you in odd situations.
Is there anything that you wish that levels of government, all the folks that are involved in the industry that could potentially change it.
To be honest, I don't really know what the solution is. I know that the land that is being developed for the 1%, and they're making huge mansions, you know? And so if that land is taken, you know, then that's that much less land for regular folks that are just coming here to work.
That's so interesting, because we've now heard that from a couple of people, that they're saying like, yeah, we're seeing things being built, but it's these big, massive homes.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, my friend who had moved from Montreal, he's in the construction industry up here, and that's what he's building. He's building huge mansions for the 1%, and you know, that's great and all, but there also needs to be room for the regular Joe.
So a lot of people were also talking to us about affordability and how challenging it has been. You know, what are you seeing on that front, and what are you hearing from the folks that you're serving?
Well, Whistler's approach to affordability is housing first. We have a target of housing 75% of workers in town, and we've been pushing hard on that for 30 years now. So there's 7,000 bed units of housing that is covenanted for affordability for 14,000 people. So it's a big number. But what I'm hearing is we need to do more of that. We need to continue delivering housing for the people that live here.
A lot of people are talking about, they're like, everybody's building big mansions, but they're not giving people housing because it's not housing as many people. I guess, you know, on the flip side of that, because it's such a tourism-driven town, is it concerning to have a cut down of Airbnbs, that there might not be as much space for tourists to come?
We have we have a zoning regime that has been established for a long time that sets aside tourist accommodation and residential accommodation. And we have a huge amount of tourist accommodation that we've ensured is available to tourists. So I'm not concerned that we don't have enough. We're most concerned right now is ensuring that people have places to live. And so I think the new regulations help us ensure that people have places to live.
This development is part of Whistler's housing solution. An athletes' village from the 2010 Olympics turned into affordable housing for people who work here. And some of it's for rent, some of it is for sale. But even with municipal restrictions on prices, selling these at cost, many people have not been able to afford it here. What's next then? They need more housing, so they're looking to build at least another 1,000 homes by 2025.
There's a live shot of Cambie Street and Vancouver City Hall. Traffic is slow, as you can see. Cambie between 12th Avenue and 8th is down to one lane in each direction for Broadway subway work. That's set to last until 5 a.m. And we are set for a clear and crisp weather weekend on the South Coast. Darius will have your BC-wide forecast right after this.
Recreating these native ecosystems is a beautiful thing, and essentially, like, as humanity being the driving force on the planet right now, it's really a question of how should humanity interact with the environment. Yeah, I consider myself as making a difference in my own way. My grandfather was a grain farmer in the area for his entire life. And my father decided to focus more on the cattle because we're in a mixed farming area with some land that's suitable for cattle and some for grain. So we've been focusing on cattle for 45 years, and then we switched to bison in the mid-90s, so it's just about 30 years now we've been doing bison. One of the big features of bison is the fact that they're incredibly tough and resilient and look after themselves. So that was one of the drawing cards for us to get into bison, was just the appealing nature of being able to just let them do their own thing. The descriptor for bison in the grasslands is that they're the keystone species in the grasslands. And for people that aren't familiar with the term keystone, it's the important building block that the rest of which is the foundation for all the rest of the other species to build from. So because the bison have been grazing out here for 10,000 years, there's a whole network of grassland bird species and salamanders and every other living thing here, which basically has a relationship with the bison. So a specific example of that would be the shedding of the wool, where in the springtime when the bison shed their winter wool, it's picked up almost immediately by all the other animals around here. So the birds will pick it up and incorporate it into their nests, and gophers pick it up and bring it down into their burrows. So they have a nice, cozy, fur-lined burrow to spend the year in. It's an important thing for all the other little bird species to have access to. People describe their walking as using their toes, and they tend to, it's almost like they aerate the ground a little bit. In our experience as well, they essentially act like seeders in a way, because especially you can see the hair on their chaps, like on their front legs. That hair will catch seeds, and then with the hoof action, they're quite effective seeders actually. So when the bison are walking, they kind of stir up some insects, and the birds will eat those insects. Or sometimes the birds will even perch on the backs of the bison, and they'll eat insects or different things like right off of the bison. You know, having a bison herd and maintaining this local grasslands is an important thing to do for the local environment, and something I can feel good about. And anyone that eats a bison burger could even feel good about.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On December 1st, join us for CBC British Columbia's annual Food Bank Day for a special day of broadcasts. The event is a yearly tradition for many, and we're bringing you a new edition of CBC's Food Bank Day that you can watch and stream live on CBC Gem and cbc.ca/BC. Make the season kind and donate at cbc.ca/foodbankday.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Time for the weekend and time for Darius Madavi to tell us what we get in the BC-wide forecast. What's up?
We're starting with the pressure map again because that's really the only story we have right through the beginning of next week. You can see we still have this ridge of high pressure in blue, which is all you can see because that's all there is. We start to see a little bit of red in a low pressure system that starts to approach BC, but our high pressure deflects it up and over the province, meaning we might see a little bit of that system affect the most northern parts of BC with a little bit of rain and flurries, but even there we're not going to see too much. It does make its way into Alberta after that, but what do we care? Now, if we take a look at the next map, you can see, here we go. There we go, that you have that bit of snow and bit of rain coming into the northern parts of the province. But for the rest of BC, especially in the south, it's really just some low cloud, some valley cloud that we're going to see in parts of the southern interior, maybe making its way on some nights to Vancouver, but mostly clearing up for the afternoon. So we should still have some very sunny days ahead. A bit more consistent in parts of central and northern BC, though, that cloud sneaking in under that ridge. If we do look at temperatures, they continue to come down, and we're reaching well into the negatives by the time we get through the weekend here in the southern interior. In the coast, staying around the same for Vancouver, maybe coming back up a degree or two by early next week, especially on the west coast of the island, but it's not too much change here. It's really the cooling that's happening in the southern interior that's really notable. Tonight, expect that by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, we'll see temperatures a degree or two warmer than this, but if you're up a little bit later in the day, then you might not experience quite this much chill, but expect, again, that you could see temperatures in the negatives as late as 9 o'clock tomorrow. Here in Vancouver, it'll be closer to 2 or 3 degrees. Tomorrow, we do reach highs approaching what you see here. Again, a little bit cooler than normal, but not too bad until we get later into the weekend, and you see that bit of snow up in the north. And here in Vancouver, once again, pretty consistent forecast. A little bit of cloud coming in early Sunday, but clearing up by the afternoon. And then those consistent highs at a little bit cooler than usual. It's not until midweek that we see the chance of some rain, but even there, I wouldn't count on it.
Okay, and for the record, we do care about our colleagues in Alberta.
Yes, I apologize to everybody watching from Alberta.
Have a good weekend, man.
See ya.
And that is your late news for Friday. Thank you for joining us tonight and all this busy week. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is tomorrow morning at 6:30 on CBC Radio 1. And Tanya Fletcher will be in the chair for your late news tomorrow night at 10:30, right after hockey. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe.